I spent 30 hours on a boat to reach an island nobody wants. The name Malpelo literally means bad hair, and from the surface, that's what it looks like. A bald volcanic rock 500 kilometers or 310 miles from anywhere. But what lives underneath is why I'd do the trip again tomorrow. We're talking walls of sharks and schools of fish so thick they can block out the sun. The secret that only a handful of divers in the world will ever get to see. The crossing is a big part of the deal. You load onto a liveaboard on the Colombian coast, and then it's just open ocean for a day and a half. No land in sight. Nothing but the boat's engine humming underneath you. The horizon stretches in every direction. You sleep, you eat, and you try to read, and you wonder if boating 30 hours to see a rock is actually a good idea. The boat creaks, the diesel smell gets into everything, and somewhere around hour 20, you start to question your life choices. Then you see it. This wall of volcanic stone rising straight out of the Pacific. No beaches, no trees, nowhere to land a small boat. Just sheer cliffs and spray and seabirds circling overhead. And you get the feeling this place never wanted visitors, and still it doesn't want them. There's a Colombian military post on the island. That tells you how remote this place really is. Nobody lives here. Nobody ever has. Sailors passed this rock for centuries and saw exactly what I saw. The last place on Earth anyone would ever stop. The island is only about 350 hectares or 864 acres, and the only ones who've claimed it as a home are the Nazca boobies, nesting in every crack of the cliff face, and the frigate birds riding in the thermals overhead like they own the sky above it. For them, this barren rock is a paradise. It's their home. For everyone else, looking up from a boat, it's just a dead end in the middle of the Pacific. That's the trick. The surface is misdirection. And if you're enjoying this video, now is a great time to like and subscribe. This channel is all about scuba stories, dive adventures, and underwater encounters that bring you closer to the ocean. When you drop in to dive at Malpelo, the moment you get about 10 meters or 30 feet, everything changes. The water opens up. The visibility is blue and deep. Suddenly, you're not looking at a dead rock anymore. You're inside one of the biggest congregations of life ever seen underwater. It's like walking into a stadium that's already full, except every seat is a fish and nobody's sitting still. The island itself sits on Malpelo Ridge in an underwater volcanic chain that pushes nutrients up from the deep, and that feeds everything. What looks dead from the boat is actually fuel for this whole ecosystem. The first thing that hits you is the biomass. Steadily marching lines of leather bass, schools of jacks thick enough to turn the water dark, mullet snappers that form literal walls of fish before your eyes. And it's not just a few fish, it's thousands. And the sheer volume is disorienting. Then the sharks show up. Galapagos sharks cruise the reef line like they own the place. Hammerheads come in from the blue, silhouettes at first, then those unmistakable heads passing overhead. You're not watching from a distance. You are in the middle of animals most people only see on television. How cool is that? Some fish here don't even exist anywhere else. Endemic species that evolved in isolation because this island is so far from everything else. When you're down there, you're floating inside a protected world that most of the planet doesn't even know exists. Before this video, have you heard of Malpelo? Let me know in the comments below. But you can talk to people who've been. But the first time you descend into one of those schools, your brain stalls. You forget to breathe. Depth slips away. You just hover there while the ocean moves around you. The silence is the strongest part. All that life and the only sound is your own breathing. You surface and the rock looks the same as it did before, but you don't see it the same way anymore. Once you've been to a place like Malpelo, you understand why divers talk about a handful of islands in the eastern Pacific with reverence. Galapagos, Cocos, Socorro, Malpelo. They're all remote, all remarkable, and they're waypoints for the same open ocean life that passes through Malpelo. Galapagos is the most famous one. Everyone's heard of it. Cocos Island has the most legendary hammerhead schools, and Socorro draws you in with giant mantas, dolphins, and whale sharks. They're incredible places, each of their own. I've been to most of them, and I'm not gonna knock a single one, but Malpelo is a bit different. It's the least known of the four, and it's the hardest to reach. There's no infrastructure, no comfortable harbor, no backup plan if the weather turns. And because of that, it's still very wild. Galapagos has fame, and that fame brings pressure. More boats, more divers, more expectations. Malpelo doesn't have any of that yet. When you drop in on Malpelo, you feel like you're seeing something before the rest of the world catches up. There's a rawness to it. You're not being guided through an underwater theme park with a schedule and a crowd. There's no guarantees out there. It's just you and the wilderness. And the ocean decides what shows up that day. The geology is a common thread. All 4 islands sit on underwater ridges where deep water gets forced upward, carrying those nutritions with it. That upwelling is why big animals gather. It's not magic, it's geography. But Malpelo's geography comes with a remoteness that others can't match. And right now, that remoteness is what's keeping it intact. Here's where the story gets a little bit complicated. The sanctuary boundary is an invisible line. Inside, it's been protected since 1995. It's become a UNESCO site in 2006. On paper, it's one of the largest no fishing zones in the Eastern Pacific, stretching across 857,000 hectares of open ocean, or about 2 million acres. But paper doesn't stop the long lines or the nets. A long line is exactly what it sounds like. A commercial fishing line that runs for miles or kilometers with thousands of baited hooks hanging off of it. One boat can set enough line to stretch across a small country. And that's just one method. Large commercial nets are also dragged through these waters to catch tuna. The problem is, those nets don't only catch just tuna. Sharks, sea turtles, dolphins, and hammerheads. They all get swept up too. Hammerheads are the most evolved shark, and they are a pack animal. It's very interesting. Many sharks are fairly isolated individuals. They are not normally with packs, but hammerheads are with packs. And that shows a very high form of intelligence with hammerheads. But nothing's prepared them for the fishing industry of today, where the entire pack can be swept up in one net. You can eliminate an entire culture, an entire tribe of hammerheads with one scraping of one net across a region. And the problem is, those hammerheads don't just stay at Malpelo. They like to get around. They're open water. They are migrating in. And so the moment they leave the protected region, they'll have a nice net greeting them. The fishing industry calls it bycatch, which is a clean word for something pretty ugly. Animals that weren't the target, killed anyway, and dumped back into the ocean, or sold as other products, often illegally. The problem is simple. Sharks don't read the maps. They don't know about our human boundaries. They cross that boundary every day. And on the other side, commercial fishing fleets are waiting with those lines already in the water. Long lines and commercial nets stretch just outside the sanctuary. In 2024, the Colombian Navy caught an Ecuadorian fisherman illegally operating inside the protected area even. So even those protected areas can still be violated. And since 2018, researchers have been running patrols on a catamaran called the Silky. And we saw it while we were there. They're holding the line against illegal fishing. Globally, illegal fishing is the 3rd largest illegal industry after drugs and arms. We're talking 26 million tons caught illegally every year. The sharks are feeling it too. A nature study of 2021 found shark and ray populations have declined by 71% in just 50 years. That's not a typo, 71%. Primarily from overfishing. The researchers reported the decline is steeper than what we've seen with elephants and rhinos on land. And here is why it spirals so fast. A lot of these animals live long lives, like us. Sharks can live 20, 30, and even 50 years. Some fish can live 100+ years, but they don't breed until they're older, and sometimes not until their teens or even their 20s. So when a fishing fleet is sweeping through bi-yearly or yearly, they're not just catching fish, they're catching animals that haven't had a single chance to reproduce yet. An entire generation gone before it could even replace itself. Do that enough times, the math stops working. You can't fish faster than a species can breed and expect anything to survive. It's simply eradication of another life form on this planet at this rate. I read these numbers before I visited Malpelo, but reading it and floating inside a wall of sharks are two completely different things. And we've seen this before. In 1992, the Atlantic cod fishery off Newfoundland collapsed after 4 centuries of fishing. The Canadian government shut it down. 40,000 people lost their jobs overnight. More than 30 years later, the cod still haven't recovered. Once a population crashes, it doesn't just bounce back. The ocean, and maybe life to some degree, it just doesn't work that way. When I see sharks at Malpelo, I don't just see beauty. I see something that might not be there in 30 years. And this is why divers matter. We're the only ones who see what's actually down there. And I bring to you understanding through my channel. Most policymakers have never been underwater, and especially at Malpelo. They don't know what a wall of sharks look like. we do. We're the witnesses. What you see, you tend to value more. And what you value becomes worth fighting for. Right now, the ocean needs more people who understand that connection. Scientists matter, but the people who matter most are the ones who actually have been there. The divers. The island that nobody wanted turned out to be one of the most alive places I've ever been, and I don't want to be the last generation to see it. So if this story left you feeling something, and you'd like to come on another dive adventure with me, check out this video next, and I'll see you there. The more you know, the more you love and protect the ocean. Until next time.